Greetings and welcome to another episode of SeptumSin versus the World. I'm SeptumSin, and we're here with another anime anti-climax episode. And we are going to not only do that, but at the end of this, we're going to very shortly have another episode of anime anti-climax where we'll do a live action, which I'm going to limit that to only a motion picture because timing. But we'll get to that at the end. But today, we're kind of doing a belated birthday for Roger, and he picked F, Memories and Melodies, as his series. So that's going to be a fun discussion, and I'm going to be helping lead us through this. F is a kind of a romantic dramedy crybait series that is again 2 seasons long, and it was based off of a, what do they call it?
Roach video game.
What is it they call it? A visual novel. Or was it dating sim? Sometimes they're dating sims.
Visual novel.
Probably a little bit of both, I would imagine.
I know, like Clannad actually was dating sim because you could end up with all the different girls at the end. But any case, we're going to get started with first impressions, and we're going to start with since it's your choice, Roger. Why don't you tell us about why you picked this as a series and your impressions of the series?
Good question, SeptumSin. I was actually exposed to this, years ago when it was just on a fan sub. I didn't know anything about it. I just knew there was Shaft doing it, and anything done by Shaft I was interested in. So give it a shot, and I really like the show. It's about, I like tear jerking, kind of like relationship type with some darkness thrown in, kind of like shows, and this one kind of fits the bill, pretty much. Yeah, I liked it a lot. I have found out that this F is not exactly a show for everybody. Unfortunate. I have to, of course, I hope there'll be maybe if there's another opportunity next year, they'll have a better choice. But for all that was offered and all that was done, I will thank everybody for watching F. I really enjoyed it. Now, this is not my first time. I watched the show quite a few times. I just have a hard time trying to stay in a kind of structured speech, kind of like moving this episode along. I tend to ramble on and stuff like that. I was thinking that perhaps a little better direction or a lot better direction was best for this particular anime episode of SeptumSin versus the World.
Well, I think it's going to be fun discussing it. I mean, that's the thing with art. And to me, media is definitely art. And there is no such thing as bad art. There's just art that people like and art that people don't like. And some art more people like than others. I look at there is no such thing as a bad movie, TV show, or so on, because there's at least one fan of any and every TV show and any and every anime. And there's at least one person who hates any and every TV show and any and every anime. So, it's going to be fun to look at it. How about you, Jake? Was this your first time with F?
This was not. What's that? Oh.
I said, whoa, I had another person I like to actually watch the show.
No, and one of the reasons why I wasn't in more of a rush to make certain I watched it again was because I had seen it. But I am glad I was able to get it done right under the wire because, frankly, I didn't remember much about it. This one, and I know Brandon feels my pain here. I'm sure Roger does too. I have a tendency to buy a lot when Sentai puts stuff on sale, because sometimes those sales are really, really good. And they tend to put out a lot of stuff that looks interesting. This one, to be honest, I do not remember at this point if it's a chicken or egg thing, if I bought it blind or if I'd already read the reviews on ANN. I really don't know. But I do remember that it did get some buzz when it came out, and that generally the reviews were positive. And it looked classy by Sentai standards. It looked relatively interesting. And so it's one of a handful of Sentai titles that I just randomly watched at some point. Again, I don't remember if I felt like, I don't remember what came first, what order it came in. If I had an agenda in watching it or it was random. I really don't remember. But it's been a few years now since I've seen these two shows. And my first impression was that it was a very interesting series, that it got a little ponderous at times, that it was very pretty to look at. But I remembered then, I guess I came into it this time suspecting more, like I've seen a lot more anime and I'm a little more cynical now about things that are done atypically. And I really feel like a lot of the artistic choices were budgetary saving measures. The show uses a lot of tricks to not be normally animated. And my original first impression was that the show was pretentious as hell. Like one of the most pretentiously artsy anime I had ever seen. And that's
in a good way.
In a good way. But that's coming from me. Like, I thought the show was pretentious as hell. And I liked it, but I prefer shows like Clannad, like we just were talking about. So I found it an interesting curio. I was really happy to have it in the collection. I was glad I saw it. And I kind of filed it away and forgot about it. So when you put it up, I was like, oh man, you picked one I've already watched.
Oh no.
But it gives me an excuse to come back to it. So I did. And those first impressions largely hold up. I still think the show is too pretentious for its own good. I still think that it uses so many tricks to disguise the bad budget that it really comes off looking cheap at times. But I also think that when it does look good, it looks good. The animation style I like. It's well done. It's just there's so minimal animation that it's noticeable. And when they get over, like there's like 4 times in the series where they just keep repeating a phrase with slight variations over and over and over again. And I'm like, one of those was effective, 4 was overkill. So there's definitely, and I know there's some controversial plot lines in this. So there's a lot of a mixed bag with this series, but it is interesting. That's not even getting into how confusing it was. I did not, even having seen it before, it took me getting to Melodies to realize it was taking place in Japan and Australia.
Yeah.
And that is just, there's a lot of confusion in the series too. It is good. I'm glad I got to revisit it. Honestly, I'm fascinated to see why it's so polarizing with this group. So I can't wait to hear what everyone has to say about that. But it'll be interesting.
Well, I guess we'll go with Dave, was this your first time watching this series?
Hey, Dave.
This was my first time watching F. Tale of Melodies and Memories. I went into this kind of knowing what Jake has already said, that it was kind of an artsy type thing going on. But I had plenty of time to watch it, so I did, like in the background of some of the stuff that I was doing. And the first season, you find yourself invested in the three tales. I feel like the first season is stronger than the second. But there's still that mysterious girl sitting in the church and the guy sitting on the roof, and you're like, what the fuck are these two doing? Like sitting like and telling these people as if like they're in the past or whatnot. And then of course it connects it in the second season. Now, they interwove the three stories well enough. Artistically, it looked okay. I was a little annoyed with the redhead that was bothering the one guy, because she just seemed to pop into his life and not give a shit about him. But when it got to the second season per se, it's not that I was polarized, but I guess I didn't like the reason behind the revenge on the one girl's part.
It makes sense. It's a lot to get into, but we'll definitely get in on it.
There was definitely something wrong in it. I enjoyed it for the most part. It's just second season was definitely more staccato, and it felt like they were trying to tie everything up in neat little bows and whatnot, and give it like a Aesop's fable ending, you know.
So well, since Brittany wanted to be last on this, I will give my impressions real quick. I know exactly how I was introduced to it, and this is my first time watching it. I was introduced because, Jacob said that he really liked the series back in the time, and it piqued my interest. I had watched a series, I want to say a group that's also involved with this was involved in called Air at the time.
Yeah.
And there was some similarities in styling, so it did have my curiosity up. Air was also very confusing and.
Is there any overlap with Air?
At least art style.
It's a completely different animation house, but they might have had some.
Air was made by Key.
Yeah.
It's another kinetic novel made by Key, and they all have the same thing: tearjerker, roller coaster ride, relationship, broken relationships, and reestablishments.
And I should say the animation does not look like Air's animation, but the art style on the publication materials looks a lot like that. Yeah,
because they had super big eyes and they had small chins, just like that's what Key stuff kind of looks like.
So, so of course, with those two, I was like, okay, well, Sentai put it on sale a number of years ago, and I went ahead and scooped it up and then forgot about it, as I do. And so when Roger brought it up, I was like, oh, well, this is an opportunity to go ahead and crack this bad boy open. And first season, actually, there's a lot of good stuff there. I could see where... And there was at least one moment in it that I thought was very powerful, and we'll talk about that later. And then second season came, and though I probably don't feel as strongly about it as Brittany does, let's see, what was the best... I think I have an actual clip that would be a good explanation for that one here. But let's just say, while I look for that I did think that there was a lot of good for it. if that makes sense. I did think that there was a lot of good, but there could definitely have been more. And yes, so as far as my opinion on the second season, though,
No, sir, I don't like it.
so we will, I guess, go to you, Brittany. Is this your first time watching F?
Not the first episode. So I realized once I started watching, I watched the first episode before. Probably when it came out initially. And I probably dropped it because I was like, it's not catching me. And I'm going to completely differ from most of these guys. This series is crap. 100% crap. I do not want to call out names, but I am going to call out 2 voice actors' names because I watched the dub. I will note that it was 2 of the worst performances I've got from dub actors. This is the nice elements that I can give it.
I watched it twice.
The animation had some very bad moments from a trained artist's eye. There's a lot of points that perspective and textures just bleed into each other. They used they used time-lapse photographs of clouds moving as backgrounds that annoyed the hell out of me. Because it was, we're not really doing animation. We're just taking this film lapse and we're putting it superimposed on these characters. Then to add to the worst part, the first season, we'll go with the first season's plot. There's an Adam Sandler movie that does the plot better. 50 First Dates is a much better movie than this anime is in the first season. And that's the good season. When you get to the second season and you get to somebody who, like myself, has been through the issue, and we can't really approach it just yet because YouTube would flag it. It having been a victim of said issue, they did it not only wrong, but to blame the guy trying to help the victim. It is absolutely infuriating, and I have now found somebody who put Shao Tucker to shame.
That's saying something.
So, do I like this series? No. I am very tempted to bust the DVDs that I own.
Season 2 had a lot of issues all over itself. But we'll get to season 2 in a bit. We'll start with the one that's not quite as problematic, which is the is it Memories is the first season?
Yeah.
Memories is the first season. And the first actor I'll call out, Clint Bickham. You got better in the rest of the show, but in the first episode, my God, you just read the script.
I actually watched the series twice because I did not like the dub, I'll admit. So I went ahead and I watched the sub. And I felt like the sub was as good a voice acting. To me, there is no such thing as a bad Japanese sub. And, well, the subtitle quality, maybe not. But voice acting, no, there's no such thing. All voice acting quality for Japanese is the same as far as I'm concerned.
I would say it was a little weaker than usual, but I wouldn't call it out for it either.
But
I haven't watched the English dub, so I can't comment on that.
So this is a series about relationships. So I'm just going to go relationship by relationship and be done with it.
Did you want me to do the names?
Yeah, so I'm going to tell you which ones, and then you can put the names to them, okay? So I'm going to start with the love triangle because that'll connect 2 of the 3 relationships that they show, which is the manga artist.
Hiro Hirano.
Hiro Hirano, yes.
All right. His older sister / childhood friend.
Ishido.
K.
Or K.
Keishindo, yes.
and then Rando Girl.
Yoko Miyamura.
Miyako Miyamura. Yeah.
With that relationship, and of course, then there's also the aside for that relationship, the film geek,
Kyosuke Sudami.
who we get to see. By the way, spoilers. By the way, who we get to see hook up with Big Sis at the end.
Now, I do want to give praise for one thing.
Mm-hmm.
This is a team up of Greg Ayers and Chris Patton. Every time they team up, usually it's good things. Unfortunately, it's bad things this time, but usually it's good things.
So we'll just go ahead and just start how the thing goes. You got this guy who's trying to juggle high school and his dream of being a manga artist, and you have his big sister, who you find out is his adopted sister, so his stepsister, if you will. And she wants to be his stepsister in the way of some other videos that you could watch.
They're not really siblings. It's just more of one of those, they have that relationship where they call each other that.
Yeah, I know.
It doesn't help. It doesn't help.
It does.
And I do believe that his mother is in there too somewhere, and she has that relationship with the neighbor next door who is in.
That's a different one.
That's a different character.
That's a different character.
Renji's mother, it might be though. Yeah.
We'll get to that relationship in a bit. We're going to keep it one at a time for the time being.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, he's getting ready to go to his Christmas party, but he gets usually overrun with his work. And just as he's getting ready to go, this girl comes by and steals his bike. And this meet the other love interest, and they end up spending Christmas together. So I will open the floor to discuss this relationship. Suffice to say, eventually he ends up with Rando Girl at the end, which upsets Big Sis. But Film Geek is there to pick up the pieces. There's a lot more subtlety to it, but I'll let y'all fill in the subtleties. What did y'all think of this relationship story overall?
Well, I have to admit I'm completely biased in this particular anime. I kind of like I like shows that have that complicated relationships, like when you're watching Marmalade Boy, the Love Pentagon kind of a relationship. It's kind of boring to watch. Guy gets girl. They stick from episode 1 all the way in. This is kind of a show that kind of fluctuates quite a bit, which I like about that. Did I enjoy the relationship between Hiro? I have a bad time with names too.
And Miyako.
Yeah,
Miyako.
I think it was really cool. I like the fact that Miyako was pretty whimsical, if I would say so, and Hiro was pretty structured in the way he wanted to do things, because he was always trying to get through his day to get all his scheduling done, to get the manga done, to a point where he actually has tendonitis. So he actually suffers through this to get this dream to come alive. So I do like that. The extra bonus relationship was between the K and back to Hiro again. You can't have a simple boy girl and that's it. You have to have some other element, and she's the foil to Miyako, which I really did enjoy.
Sorry, what?
I was going to say, there is almost a callback to Golden Time in a way, since we covered that not long ago with the person trying to record that person's feelings at their worst possible moments.
There's definitely some similarities and overlaps. You can't actually really cover Hiro and Miyako, or even Hiro, Miyako, and Kei, without bringing in Chihiro. So it's kind of,
the anime kind of ignores it for a good portion.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, like it's not as connected as it could be, but like that's something like Roger's talking about complications and wrinkles and whatever. And that's definitely a major one that we learn later on, is that Kei and Chihiro are twins, and Chihiro's memory issues are the result of an accident that happened when apparently she was closer to Hiro And there was almost another love triangle going on where Kay was on the outside of that one too. So it's kind of, she has always been on the outside with him. But I do want to mention, it's interesting that Hiro and Miyako, not only is there the sort of, well, their names are both very weirdly repetitive, which I think they have a laugh about when they find out about it. But they're almost opposites, because not only is Hiro very, very, very risk averse, always follows the schedule, tries to do what he set out to do, and Miyako seems really free-willing and high-spirited. They're, in both cases, that's almost masking an opposite personality. In her case, she's basically paralyzed by
Anxiety.
she's just paralyzed by life, and so she projects this image of being completely free, and Hiro's like really seems really driven, really has his act together, but really is kind of all over the place. So it's kind of it's interesting, and they of course help each other to work on those problems, but that arc, I guess, is their main arc as a couple.
Miyako is about as close to borderline as you can get for a teen. There's a lot of that there. She's had trauma in her past. And therefore, she's very much afraid of failure. She's also she also has attachment issues, and she has
afraid of being alone,
and huge fear of being rejected. And this does play out a lot in there. Basically, if you can't be all in there for me 100%, I can't deal with you. And this really got really bad because she's the one who sees the other one's like of Hiro. Early on, he basically lowers the boom on her pretty quick.
And one thing that's true of a lot of characters in these two shows is there are quite a few variations on the idea of a toxic relationship in these series. And while most of them work out in the end, most of them have some positive resolution in the end, not all of them. She comes off for much of the series as one personality type that I don't care for at all. That is complete possessive, toxic jealousy. She does have that belief that you are all in, because anything that you don't do that's not for me, you're cheating on me and being unfaithful and a terrible person. And she's so insecure, she doesn't let him breathe on his own until later. And that's a major parallel with Golden Time. That character got a lot of that too, but she learned more quickly and I think more effectively. This one,
the relationship was on the way to improving them both, but they both had a long ways to go.
Yeah.
Well, in F, there's all the relationships were broken at the beginning. There were none of them that got together and they say, no, it's all roses and tulips and everything like that. So they always had one or both parties had several personality issues, personal issues, dark history, dark past. They had a relationship, trying to admit each other's love with each other at the end. It's kind of hard to get in there. So I always that's what I liked. That's what I liked most about the show. Like what Jake was saying, that they were broken. Basically, one or both parties were broken in some way. Some more than others. The first one was it was kind of probably one of the more darker ones in my opinion for the show. Especially with Miyako. She definitely was possessive and didn't want to be alone, and she was very fragile. Even though she had an outside, really outgoing outside personality, and she made sure that if somebody tried to claim her property, that she made sure that that they knew that he was hers. So
Yeah, that's. I'm reminded of we had our discussion a couple nights ago about American Pie 2, and there's the line where Michelle says, "He's my bitch."
One of the problems I could have with the series, but one of the things that I could see also as its strength is it does take a lot of overused tropes and tries to put a spin on it.
Yeah.
I mean, shoot, our older sister, for instance, that trope is used to death. But I do like that they did add in the extra wheel of the film guy to kind of add a little bit there.
Of course.
Even the main relationship really between Hiro and Miyako has been done before. Though I do think that playing a little bit more into her trauma and understanding that the free spirit is not so free does help.
Sorry. Well, Brandon, you mentioned earlier Air, and we briefly brought up Key.
They're confusing as hell.
Well, Key, I still am not as versed in all their stuff as I would like to be, because I really love the Clannad series. I enjoy Air. I know they had a hand in Angel Beats. Like, they have done some really solid stuff. They go all in on the tragic, trauma-laden characters. Yep. And so this one does have a Key vibe in that respect, although I think this series goes further than most of their projects. But one thing that is, you're talking about overused tropes. One that is present in Clannad is the trope of the twins, where one is very hard-headed, sports-oriented, take charge kind of character, and the other one's very sweet and seemingly more passive.
Shoot. Yeah. What was it? Lucky Star has those.
Lucky Star has that too, yes. And I enjoy that in Lucky Star, one of the twins is named Kagami, which means mirror. I mean, that's appropriate. Yeah.
But yeah, this particular one, I guess if there was one of the relationships I found the most interesting, it would be between this one and the other one. Though I don't, but both of them have flaws with them. But we'll get into my thoughts on that. Like I say, Hiro we'll talk about more in a minute, but and so much as really her only major relationship in this one is the fact that is what Jake already explained. Otherwise, they interact very briefly. There's a couple of interactions, but really, she doesn't interact with Hiro at all as an adult practically throughout that
Chihiro?
Yeah. Well, is there any major plot point with Chihiro as an adult with him?
Well, I wonder if anyone else can tell me for certain. I am under the impression that throughout the series, Hiro never leaves Japan and Chihiro never leaves Australia. Am I correct on that?
I think you're correct on there.
So that might be why they don't interact.
Do interact at least.
To be fair, Hiro is an established mangaka in the story. So your schedule's screwed.
Yeah. He don't get to pop over just pop over to Australia the way a couple of the characters can.
So Dave, what did you think of the relationship between we'll just say this love triangle. We'll leave out the film geek.
Well, the sister was very controlling. She didn't really think about what he wanted. So I automatically thought that the relationship wasn't going to go that way. Okay, but I'm kind of glad that the video guy was there to pick up the pace at the end of that one. But I don't know why, but I felt like the girl that he met during Christmas. Well, I didn't like her at first. Maybe because she just seemed like, "Ow."
Yeah. I don't know. The part where she just up and stole his bike at the beginning at least was an entertaining piece for me.
I'm a girl. I'm in love with that kind of. I mean, in a sense, it's almost like she was trying to act like the rabbit in Alice in Wonderland. I'm late. I'm late. I'm late for a very important date. You know, when she took his bicycle.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I have mixed feelings about that relationship.
Well, in a way, this is an appropriate one for December because it starts at Christmas time, and mostly goes beyond it, which is we're beyond it now.
Well, it starts and ends at Christmas. I mean, we could have called this a Christmas series in a way.
We could have started watching it now and then said that the date of our next Anhedenia climax was at the end of Christmas 2026. That would have more than enough time for everybody to watch the series.
2 years?
Yes. Eventually, everybody would have been able to watch all 24 episodes by that time.
One would hope.
You could just do one a month and you'd be good.
Lord.
One a month.
I will say, I mean, this is your atypical anime couple. Out of the entire series, this is sort of the being a fan that will watch, shoujos and a couple of the other sort of romantic anime. I see this one as just a standard anime couple, and it's not really that impressive to me. So I've even seen the pair up with a manga artist and the energetic young girl, high school girl, like maybe 5 times.
Right.
The only thing, one of the things I'll disagree with Roger on is I don't look at this as the atypical. I look at this as the typical. I look at the thing that he described as the stable relationship between just two people from the beginning on as extremely atypical. I don't see that hardly all. I can think of one. My love story was one where it basically started and was sweet for the whole time. But that is a very this type of thing is the usual anime relationship.
I can think of a dozen on there, and I mean, "Fly Me to the Moon's" one. Another one would be, Hiroyama. I just started one, Sugani or something like that. It's a same concept. It's from the beginning to end, they're kind of set in a single relationship.
Right.
And it can be interesting. I mean, Fly Me to the Moon, hell, the two get married in the first episode.
Well, of course, though, they're not lovey-dovey at first. They actually have to... They're extremely awkward. Technically, they barely even know each other.
Exactly. And that's the fun of that anime is it's the awkwardness between this couple, and it's like that they give you that cutesy moments of you love the lovey-dovey. It's a completely different than this because, my God, the drama of this series.
Right.
Of that series, but as far as this though, anybody else have anything else on this relationship? Because I mean, he ends up with her at the end. It looks like it's going to break up because she ends up basically running out, but he chases her, and he also gives up on school to become a full-time manga artist to chase his dream.
We should probably mention, because it is involved in all the stories, and we see it first in his story, that there are two mysterious figures hanging around that Hiro and Miyako both go to. One being an older...
Hiro sees that...
it's going to be you.
there's an older guy named Himura, and Himura, and there's a mysterious girl who seems to vanish when people blink, kind of like Batman. And her name is, we eventually learn, is Yuko Amamiya. But
sorry, Jacob, you made me laugh at the Batman joke.
well, yeah, that's what Batman does.
The nun who's not a nun.
There you go. Yeah,
she could be the flying nun. Maybe that's why she disappears.
That's like, I haven't seen Batman Isekai yet, but maybe he gets whisked off to another world where he becomes a nun.
You did have the relationship between you and Yuka. Basically, I know when I first watched the show, I thought Yuka was probably going to be some, how she disappears and reappears, some sort of spirit, something like that. And you kind of find out, what she really represents. But there's another relationship in the whole story, and of course, when you get to the end, you'll find out what happens with their relationship.
Well, again, that's more of the second season, but here they're introduced as these two mysterious figures who are, in their own way, guiding everyone else, like
Yoda and the female version of Yoda.
Yeah, maybe it's more. I don't know. Himura comes off more like Luke in Last Jedi, and Yuko just is that kindly. Going back to the video game origins, she would be the one helping you through the game, like the one who gives you the directions or whatever,
or hints.
I'm wondering how much damage a spoon can do as we talk about these two.
or like in Fraggle Rock, the all-knowing trash heap.
Yes, exactly.
And let's not forget the lucky school roof key that
there is.
There's at least two of them.
Yes. Well, there are two of them. That's one of the things which I'm a little disappointed that when Sentai, I have the original releases of the individual seasons, but Sentai did do a twofer. I know one of you guys has it.
Yep.
And didn't they I think they just labeled it Memories, Melodies, but I know the original visual novel was called A Fairy Tale of the Two, and I really wish they had renamed the complete collection that. But the whole series is about there's a lot about duality there. There are the twin towns, Otoyo, Japan, and Australia, or is it Otoyo? What's the place?
It's
called?
Otoyo of Japan and Otoyo of Australia. The two towns named Otoyo.
And apparently they are meant, like the Australian one is a copy of the Japanese one, and they're like twin cities basically. But there are a lot of dualities, and those twin keys are one of them. And so yeah, it all ties together in the end, but it's harder to see on one season or the other.
I do want to just go ahead and note one other thing with the animation at this point. Count the number of vehicles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, just want to establish that right now.
Vehicles.
Well, except for the one in
the bike.
Except for the bike and the one that hits a key character later.
There's two of them.
Nope, you never see that one, Jacob.
You see, you
never
just see that. You just see the headlights. You are correct.
I was watching Anime America's summary of this beforehand to refresh my memory of it, and they make good points. But they do that little meme of a truck coon. They have the little bloody representation of the truck with the troll symbol on it.
To be fair, her review came out right after Zombie. What was it?
Zombieland Saga?
Yeah, Zombieland Saga came out with the truck coon really hitting.
Yes. But it was still fun.
I still need to see that show. But yeah.
But,
I need to finish it.
Yeah.
Well, anything else on this relationship? I haven't heard anybody talk a lot about the videographer guy.
Again, stereotypical. You guys kind of called it. It's like Golden Time relationship. I wouldn't be surprised if Golden Time kind of got a little bit of its characteristics from this game, because I will state it comes from the visual novel game on PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
So I would not be surprised if that happened.
Yeah. So Kyosuke, he is probably one of the more thinly developed of the major cast. And he kind of is the guy who's there to give Kay someone to end up with. But he has a little bit to him, but I just think he is one of the more thinly developed characters.
Yeah, he is.
He's like a throwaway character, just to pick up the pieces for Kay. And
he's very. I know.
With it.
Who was the filmographer in America?
It was.
I'm trying to remember the Kevin Spacey movie, America.
Oh, American Beauty. You're talking about
yeah.
Wes? What's his face's name?
Yeah, he very much is that character.
They needed a plastic bag for him to film.
Well, he didn't have a major speech that the movie's title came from.
But
also Kyosuke had another relationship before Kay's relationship. It was
she's even more. She's even more of a throwaway.
Perhaps she was like senpai or something.
Imi Azumi.
Yeah,
So talk about a really stupid name there. Your name rhymes with itself.
They had a tryst. It kind of fell apart for somehow. It don't really describe too much, but I've seen it.
So they're in the film club, and Kyosuke is a true artist who wants to make shots that will impact people, and the rest of the film club wants to win awards. And so you have that sort of that artistic dilemma of, and this is one of the reasons why I'm comfortable calling the show pretentious, is because it really does delve deep into artistic themes and the way artists think about things. It maybe doesn't do it well, but it tries. And so you have this conflict between art for art's sake and art for awards. And that is why he quits the group.
I will say I've been through several years of art classes. Never have I once walked into a class where someone stripped themselves naked and started drawing themselves.
Yes, I was not that fortunate either.
But in the show, kind of looking at it, you is a artist, Hero is an artist, the evil Akira is an artist, Renji is a novelist.
They're all artists in a sense.
Videographer, Kuz is he's a violinist, musician kind of guy. Yeah. So all of them have artistic value to all. So it's a good thing about F.
Right.
So, let's move on to the other relationship.
That's the main relationship of memories.
Yeah.
So actually, memories being the accurate thing. So we've got Chihiro and what's his name?
Renji Aso.
Yeah, Renji and Chichiro. I think her name is Chichiro.
Chihiro
and Renji. Yep. Chihiro and Renji.
So. Oh man, this thing is so tragic. This is my favorite relationship of all of them. So much tragedy. I loved it. Had this chapter in her past. Her universe is contained in 12 hours to the age of 12, and it resets gradually as the hours goes by. So she has a broken relationship with her environment. Basically, she's a never-ending problem with herself. Waking up with her disfigurement. Not knowing all the other people that she may have talked to that day. She goes through a lot of effort to write down in a diary what happens from day to day, what kind of food she eats. So she's trying to reconstruct her life almost like daily.
All right, Brandon, you've probably been the one that's most likely dealt with somebody with short-term memory loss.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. The only time I've dealt with anything like that, other than in one of these types of things, is that I did have a guy who had a memory span of 5 minutes.
Huh.
Wow.
It was
That
notable
really
because
sucks.
Wow.
The person had a major heart issue that that destroyed a lot of the brain, so he was able to maintain everything up to that point, and he had a 5-minute memory span.
Wow.
So he could barely hold a conversation. He couldn't lift anything over 5 pounds. And when he applied for disability, they said that he could work in a factory, which is why they denied him.
Okay.
That's why I say when people say it's easy to get a disability, they're wrong.
That's pretty brutal. They may ask me about it. It's pretty brutal. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the only extent I've had with that. I've had people
Now, does anyone find that romantic?
Oh well, no, that guy wasn't romantic at all.
I mean, even the concept of short-term memory loss.
But this is not the only anime that has a memory problem girl.
No, because
like 1 Week Friends, for instance. There's another one that's a classic where they have a
you kind of
female
expect
protagonist that has a memory problem that resets, and the guy has to suffer through it.
And don't forget 31st Dates.
Exactly. 51st Dates.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't a romance, but we also had Memento, or you had to.
Well, yeah, Memento is a superbly made film. I must admit, I really like that film a lot.
The idea, and I personally love Memento. I think it's one of the greatest movies. But the idea of someone having to write down their entire life just to get through it definitely does elicit sympathy, and it can be, if done well, it could be a really good storyline. Now, mixing it with romance, that is kind of a.
And there's one other factor you got to mix in there too.
What's that?
She wants to be a writer.
Yes.
Which
again,
have you tried to write something? Forget what you just wrote 13 hours later and try to continue that story. I will say this because I have aspirations of writing, and I'm actually actively working on it now. It would be extraordinarily difficult and frustrating, and it would be really hard to get on a roll and stay on a roll. But there are a couple of potential advantages. One, being forced to reread it over and over and over and over again would force you to do a much better job of editing than most people do. And also, because believe me, I've read poorly edited stuff. I've written some poorly edited stuff.
Oh, I know. But the other thing would be that writing for me is actually very difficult, and one of the most interesting things about it is discovery. So the idea that you would be continually discovering your own writing is actually kind of an interesting idea. Now, it would be very frustrating that it would be hard to grab an idea and keep building on it. That would be very frustrating and difficult. But there are ways where I could find it possibly being interesting and fun as well as difficult. So, and the way that Renji jumps in with both feet to help her is pretty cool. It's a nice thing that he tries really hard to do that for her. Now, of course, this is an example of where I was saying Himura is not so much Yoda as a bitter, cynical. He tries hard to scare Renji off. He tries hard to tell him, look, dude, you don't know what you're getting in for. It's just true. And he's
pretty much your caretaker.
I have no problem with Renji except for Clint's read in the first episode.
Except for which?
Clint Black Brickman, because I cannot say the sub actor, the original voice actor, was bad, but Clint's read in that first episode is literally like, oh no, oh my god, and it's like the most monotone play that just kind of threw me off.
So he was doing the Tommy Wiseau version.
Yes, it was very much Tommy Wiseau, but he gets better. I admit he gets better in the season. So I do realize it was Clint's one of his first roles he ever did in anime. He's gotten better as a voice actor. He's not gotten major roles, and I mean, I will note all the main cast in this first part, they were the cast of Ghost Stories.
Oh.
So everyone else was well known. It's just Clint came in and played this role, and at first read was just like so deadpan. It's like, oh my God.
So would you have appreciated and enjoyed this more if they had gone full Ghost Stories and tried?
Oh hell yeah.
I think I would enjoy most Japanese anime if they did it Ghost Stories style.
You had referenced somebody earlier on, and this is where they come in at, which is the mother of the male love interest. And on top of that, one of the love interests of the second season, who is the older pervert, who has kind of a weird relationship with the mother.
Yeah.
Because he's a perv.
Yeah. Her name is Sumire, and his name is Shuichi Kuze. Yes.
And his only role in this is really just to be a perv, essentially, in this particular season.
Well,
I'm going to save something about that voice actor when we get to Melodies, because it's very, very ironic situation here.
Oh, I can't wait to listen.
But
yeah, I mean, of all the relationships we have, the Renji is kind of like the more bland of the male character. He doesn't really have a personality problem or a trauma or anything like that. He just was a completely normal dude that was trying to start a novel writing career. He just so happened to run into Chichiro on the rail tracks. You kind of see that allegory because the train track is going nowhere, and there's two rails, and he's walking on a rail. And so it's kind of interesting how the allegory is kind of like starting almost from the beginning how difficult this particular relationship would be.
How was he the one that couldn't figure out what he wanted to do with his life? And wasn't able to fill out the school form.
Yeah. In fact, he had a problem figuring out what if he really wanted to be a writer or something else.
Yeah, I think he was the one that didn't have any idea, and Hiro was the one who was hesitant because he was afraid to commit, basically. But yeah, they both had that. What do they call it? Career survey or whatever.
Yeah, the career inspiration or career aspiration.
It is a career survey. They kind of in high school in Japan try to push you towards the direction of where best to send you in college or in future education. To do that at your senior years in high school. I know I did something similar, but I think we did it in like middle school when I was around, and I got Forrest because I told him I didn't want to do. I just wanted to get the hell out of school. So it's a very typical. You'll see it a lot in anime, some high school animes that really focus on it, and then they'll also sort of re-reference it in college anime. I know there's one college anime that we watched that I know Brandon loved that had talked about career promotion. I'm forgetting the name of the series though off the top of my head.
Honey and Clover?
No, not Honey and Clover. Oh well, Honey and Clover does talk about it though. They do because the main character struggles with it before he goes over into the architecture restoration. So I mean, it's a common thing for Japan.
And I think that the whole idea of trying to find yourself is a big thing in your late teens, early 20s. Mm-hmm. Because your personality is not fully developed until 25. So you've got the basics. At 18, you've got the groundwork done. But then you have to refine yourself. There's a reason why you can't even, you shouldn't give anybody a personality disorder before that age, because personality is actually readily able to change anytime between. You take somebody who's 22 versus now, and somebody who's 25 versus now, and I guarantee you the 25-year-old will be far similar to now than the 22-year-old. But this series is this particular relationship is the one that is most conflicting to me, because there are parts of it that I feel are brilliant, but anything using the amnesia trope, as I have said before on this discussion multiple times, pisses me off because I feel it's overused. Like, way overused.
Oh, it is way overused. I don't think anybody can argue with that.
Another thing that's way overused that is a weird, for some people, it's a super specific fetish that I never got. That whole eye patch girl thing is like way overused in Japan. And they had to have an eye patch girl character,
Wait a second. When was that trope? I got to figure this out. When there was a supposed fetish that went around in the 2000s that they blamed in anime, and it was Japan, about licking eyeballs.
Ugh. Oh no, that's I can't.
In every anime that you see. I mean,
And well, no. The reason I connected is because a lot of girls wore eye patches because of that.
Okay.
As that they would if they it's like, I don't want to be. It's sort of blocking it away, hiding. It's like it was the fear of it. That was a possibility.
That's interesting and weird.
It was a weird moment in anime and culture, and I remember it specifically because it still is disturbing, and I think there is an anime that it does occur in, but I don't remember what anime it was.
There are several animes that have a licking of eyeballs as a threat.
I had always heard that the eye patch thing probably originated with Rei Ayanami in Evangelion.
It possibly could have. It possibly could have.
I don't know. Yeah.
Ray was probably the more stereotypical start of that patch.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you have the evolution of it where you have the Chinubyo characters who are like, I'm using it to contain my powers.
You mean like Mega Man from Konosuba?
Right.
Or there's the girl from Another that kind of reminds me of the girl from that series, except a little bit darker. Slightly darker. Another's a nice. That's a cheery series.
I need to see that.
Good like high school romantic comedy.
Good times.
Anything more about this relationship?
So let's move on with this.
Okay.
Essentially, the main interesting character in this is, of course, the female in this, and she, of course, had this accident when, as was explained by Jacob earlier, when her sister kind of got jealous and went off with Hiro to the beach, and she tried to follow along, and then
Got hit by a car, I think.
Hit by a car, and now she is basically stuck forever at that age because after, I think, 12 hours or so,
13 hours.
13 hours, because as 1 hour goes past, she loses 1 hour of memory. Eventually, lose the whole 13 hours after that.
Yeah, it gets in some weird gray territory with the rules.
I think they call it retrograde amnesia or something.
It's MacGuffin amnesia is what it is.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's we'll use it as we need to.
Plot device amnesia. There you go.
But how she does it is she uses her diary, and she rereads her diary every day before bed, and all to try and refresh herself so that she can be who she is when she wakes, and is able to then recall everything that happened throughout. And they develop sort of a relationship where she wants to be a writer, and he helps her pursue her dream. Now, to me, and of course, then conflict happens. She gets scared. She tries to run away. He makes his own decision, decides that he's going to pursue this no matter what, and he manages to pursue her, and they try to make it work. And end scene. But to me, there is one particular scene that they did very well with this, and it caught me off guard. Where everything else not throughout the entirety of this one, except for this part, which was when they're on the building, and I thought she was just going to throw herself off the building. Which, I mean,
but in a way, she
I
does.
was with you there, Brandon. But at the same time, I was like, jump.
In a way, she does, because she takes a whole section of her life that she knew about that relationship and she tosses it.
Yeah.
When she did that,
she wants to save. Let me see. I'll go back to my handy list. Wants to save Renji the pain of having to maintain this kind of difficult relationship. She says she wants to reset everything to zero. That stop any kind of possible going forward with romance and difficulties, because he was working hard to make her remember enough so she can write her novel that she always wanted to write. I mean, I really loved it, because it was a part where she tried to help him, in her own way, and he said, "No, I'm not going to accept that." It was kind of cool how he actually. I think of all the characters, he is the one that actually pursued the relationship the hardest. He tracked down every single page that she threw away, wherever the hell they went to.
Everybody went through some hardship, and I will say that the hardship is different.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. He brings all the pages back to her. I thought it was like I thought it was a wonderful. This one of the few episodes where I actually cried to death. And I kept on rewatching to cry again. It was a pretty cool, and she admits that she remembers him even though the time has got past, because he is in her heart, and she could not stop from thinking about him. And she sprouts the angel wings, and if the miracle happens, I was crying at that time. I was really, really, really like it. This is one of my favorite relationships in the whole show. Yeah, so I thought it was really cute. I liked it.
I'll admit it's the best relationship in the show.
Yeah,
it's definitely.
I agree with that.
I mean, it's the most innocent one. There's no sex involved. There's some hand holding, maybe some sort of chest a kiss or something like that. But this is the most innocent of all the relationships in the whole show.
Right.
So I will say, out of the entirety of both seasons, to me, when they actually do the thing where she rips the page and she tosses it, artistically, thematically, and so on, it was probably one of the, to me at least, most powerful scenes in the entire series.
It was great.
It really caught me off guard enough. There was a part of me in the back of my mind that thought about it, but I'll admit it caught me off guard enough that I did shed a small tear for it. And so I will give it that.
I'll dry over here, but I will admit I stand with Brandon. It's the most powerful moment. I, however, had some real serious questions on how those pages stood up against water, rain, all this other stuff.
Yes, or how he was able to find them all. Yes,
very high quality pages.
It's symbology, the artistic symbology, restricting her life and bringing her life back to her. A certain suspension of disbelief must be done on the show.
The disbelief of me is carrying paper that dissolves at like freaking humidity temperature of about 10%.
This isn't Australia after all.
We do have that problem with the show, but if they, in this kind of a show, they're gonna, obviously probably the visual novel. They probably had a lot more storyline, a lot more background fill in and stuff like that. This is more of a compressed show. That's about every anime out there that has something to do with a visual novel. It has some sort of amount of compression involved. So it's probably that's what's going on with that. But man, I thought it was really darn cool. But that's my impression.
If people really want to torture me, make me play that game.
You might like it. You probably don't want to do it.
No, I don't want to do it.
Well, you know, they
Well,
missed
you
the
probably
opportunity.
won't. You probably won't have to deal with the voice acting, or at least not the
No,
same.
actually, I've looked. Some of the same voice actors are in the
Oh, really?
game. Yes.
Oh, okay.
They missed it. They missed a major opportunity with this being partially in Australia. There was not a single fight with snakes or funnel webs.
I
And
know.
nobody died for poisonous bites. And the
Not a
entire-
single drunken bar fight. Okay,
No.
come on.
Man,
No,
they
He could have been fighting a Sydney funnel web for one of those pages.
right. You know,
Dave, what were your thoughts about this relationship?
Is Dave there? Not there.
The relationship between the 51st Dates girl,
Yes.
and Renji was his name.
Yeah, you
Oh,
actually got it
Renji.
right. Yeah.
yeah.
I do think that this was one of the cutest.
Actually,
I do think this was one of the cutest. If you took them apart from the others in this, you could almost like follow their storyline, and that would be the series to me.
oh, yeah. I could have seen a whole series of that.
I could have seen a whole series about them too. And I did think that it was kind of cute that she started to remember him and all that jazz. And at first, I thought it was a little frustrating because you could see that Renji was getting frustrated with why she wasn't able to remember him. But then he was told the truth by her. I would have to say her benefactor, or her
it'll be you.
her guardian. I would
You.
have to say.
So,
I'm
I
gonna
would-
say,
because
Dave, you,
I feel
you
like-
kind of called it there.
like-
It definitely is.
Like she was his ward, and he the guardian.
Well, I mean, it is. He's more
I mean,
like a
yeah,
guardian.
that is the case. Yeah.
That's almost the situation with that.
Yeah.
as I say, I wanted to make sure I get.
And
get
it's
to-
because of her situation that he's. And it's kind of because of her accident and situation that he's kind of like helped watch over her and whatnot. So it's the one that I feel like you can mostly invest in the whole entire series. So it's the one that the one constant I feel, and the more stronger of all of the relationships together. So
I can go with that. I agree with that.
Well,
I gotta say, Brandon now has me thoroughly disappointed that Renji didn't have to brush aside a Sydney funnel web and a Taipon, fished one of the pages out of a suicide tree, find one floating in the sea with box jellyfish all around, They missed an opportunity there.
She was writing the diary on Gimpy Gimpy.
But
just so she'd remember it more, the pain will help her.
but I don't know. I wonder if anyone else really caught this. Did they ever explain exactly how Chihiro was under Himura's care?
No.
I mean, you can guess at it because Hiro's older sister Nagi, who we don't meet till the second series, is an old friend of Himura who cared a lot for him. Yuko's fate and Chihiro's fate were related, so maybe he felt some
I
responsibility.
almost feel
there.
like
I
almost
don't
feel
think they
like
said.
he is the uncle. I feel like he's an uncle of some sort. At least that's where I'm I feel like he's
Oh.
related.
I
Oh,
But
thought-
not related.
in some way, at least friendship wise.
well, yeah.
Best friends with the guy with the pervert. And,
Well, again, he's best. He had a trio. It was a trio. It was him, Kuze, and Nagi. And Nagi is Hiro's older sister. So there definitely is that connection there. I just don't know if it's ever made explicit how he came to know the twins. Like, I don't know if that was ever fully.
I seem to remember that he was just drawing on the bridge, and the two girls approached him.
Oh, yeah, there was that scene.
And they simply approached him, and they say that they liked his art. He was always alone, so they wanted to be kind to him, I think.
And that probably came after. I'm not sure about this or not, but one character we have not yet mentioned, who's only a bit player in the first series, but a major player in the second, is Mizuki Hayama, who is best friends with Kei and very good friends with Hiro. And she, in the second series, goes to Australia where she takes up with Kuze. But we also learn in the second series that when she was a little girl calling herself Miki, that Yu and Yuko looked after her. So it could be that she also was part of the reason why he reached out to them. I doubt he would have otherwise. But it's like I said, I feel like, Roger, you said before you thought they probably left elements of the novel out. I wouldn't be surprised if that was one thing that they left out. They were just like, people will figure it out.
It wasn't ultimately important to the story. I don't think.
It wasn't hugely important.
They have a big old graph and information chart that you were able to reference every time, which
I'm sure.
But let's move on to second season, because that one's going to be a lot harder to digest and in multiple ways.
We are past the time we can now state what the event is too.
Yeah.
Well, the second half is quite a bit more darker than the first half.
Oh yeah.
Bits.
We had, in the first episode, one thing I would like to mention very quickly is that we did have one really bad dark moment in the first season. It was with Miyako when she was calling Hiro like 99 times.
Yeah.
She had an emotional breakdown.
That was the first of those pound you over the head with a hammer moments I was talking about. Yes, it was effective that time.
It's very effective. This was of course was used again, in another way in the second season, but it really did affect me the first time I watched it. But the second season is quite a bit more darker than the first one. The first one was kind of like innocent. It had some innocent, kid problems and the kid relationships to a certain extent. They're all high schoolers, but the second one is a bit more complicated.
And it's kind of ironic that the first one is called Memories, when the second one is about slightly older people who are rooted in their memories, like absolutely prisoners to the past.
There's 3 ways we can cover this before we get dumping. We could just do, I know that people say interconnected. We could just say all of it at once and just randomly go with random parts all over.
Well, it doesn't start with the darker. It doesn't start with the darker moment.
You want to start with the easier one? Then let me note what I was going to say about this voice actor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ilich Gordia, who plays Kuze in this series, was a teacher as well, drama teacher.
Mm-hmm.
He had a relationship with one of his students.
Oh, so very similar.
Yeah. Very similar. And he no longer voice acts because of it. He did marry that woman. So, suppose love was found with a underage girl. But there's a reason why that actor no longer voice acts. And that's the reason.
Well, why don't we start with that relationship, because it's a little bit less of the time skippiness, and I think this one, does this relationship take place 10 years in the future of the original? I know that some of it does.
The first one takes place in 10 years before the original, yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
this one,
Yeah. So the relationship you're talking about is by Kuze and Miyuki.
a 15-year-old, 30-something-year-old.
Yeah. But
Kuze
the
and
problem is that the Kuze has a secret, and it really talks a lot about the masks we wear and how he's hiding the truth and having different personalities to show different people.
And
to
he's got
cover
a
up
ton of
all the-
masks in his place.
Yeah, he literally has nothing but masks left. It's like he gave away everything else.
I think
He's
this
really throwing away his life because he doesn't see any more value in it.
But
He's
he,
value in his life, so he doesn't want to drag anybody else in his valueless life.
well, it is important to know that he is dying. He has a heart issue. He is dying. He is counting down the days, quite literally.
Quite literally, yeah.
Yeah. And
8 years passed, but
yeah.
I mean, the problem with this one, which is the obvious problem, because I think that this has a lot of good notes to it, and it would have probably been one of the most effective stories in the series.
It is the one that lends. It is the one that lends its name to the title because he is a violinist, and yeah.
And really, on the second half, that is the major relationship that's going on.
If I wasn't going the whole series thinking of Shigure saying "high school girl" the entire time with him, because I'm sorry, the fact that they decided that the best way to do this would be to have somebody half his age that is a minor, not a minor in Japan, I guess, by consent rules, but that, to me, it overshadows it and it cheapens the relationship.
And now that you're saying that, he really did have a Shigure vibe to him, didn't he? Only he was.
Dude had a closet full of high school girl uniforms.
Yes.
At one time, Kuze was a player of the flower, picking up flowers and disposing of flowers as he went along in his life.
And she was modeling them for him because,
Yeah.
That weirded me out just as much. I mean, she's just going in like one scene you'll see in one uniform. Next scene, she's in a completely different uniform. It's like, what the hell?
See, you're just not used. You're just not used to these other countries thinking nothing of the age limit. Because I guarantee you, Japan isn't the only country that does not think that
They just have a different.
Actually, I will tell you. It no longer is an issue.
Yeah.
Japan has decided, okay, this is a little bit of a problem here.
Yeah. And in a way, there are still some pockets of the even here in the United States where there are states that that are still trying to fight for the ability for adults to marry minors, but they're looked at as creepy and disturbing by most of the people here.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't think that having this kind of age difference of a young minor and an older partner is an appropriate thing to do. But this is a high school romance kind of show with some darkness thrown in there. So they have to have a certain amount of disbelief would have to be sprinkled in there again.
And it is also worth noting that yes, Japan is cracking down on this stuff, but America is. I have said I will maintain till my dying day. I'm sure America is way too Puritan on everything sex. That's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons.
I hear
it. Child marriage. Child marriage is where I really draw.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying I'm supporting the age difference there. I'm just saying that Americans have this knee-jerk reaction to this sort of thing because we're so prudish on the entire subject. So it's even worse because she's so young. But
well, it is the most of all the relationships in the show. This is the most awkward one. If you're looking for a point of view, you have a really older guy.
Well, actually, I don't know.
You have a very young girl.
You could have had some of any adult in the background of the series come in and take the place of this character of the teenager, and it would have solved the issue.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have an interesting.
Nagi could have been the one that this centered on.
Mm-hmm.
They just had to age her up
Oh,
5 years. I would have been fine with it.
There's that too.
Yeah, but now you have a guy that's trying. And this, the guy is, a guy is going through his, is going at the end of his life. You're going to have something on the opposite end. It's something vibrant life. I have to have something that that causes a duality.
If you have heart problems, you do not need a young woman to try and help that heart problem.
You don't need
And believe it or not, the Coos does see this as a problem too. That's why he tried to get rid of her, verbally. You can't do that physically, in this relationship. It didn't happen physically, but he tried to get rid of her, try to move her out verbally.
Well, his interest was not the fact of her
can't
age.
say that she's a gold digger.
Because he was dying, and he didn't want to have somebody like this involved with his life, because he was dying, and we didn't know, any moment he could die. He was focused on his medicine. Yeah, I know.
Well, he was counting down the day to die.
Mm-hmm.
He literally was.
Yeah.
But that's when his medicine but because that's when the day his medicine runs out. They would have no more medicine, and that's it.
Like I say, it has a lot of interesting nuances to it. I love the illustrations of the masks cracking. It's just having the pervert who has a high school fetish with the high school girl takes away from that considerably, and I just can't get behind it to the crying stage or taking it serious stage because of that.
Well, I didn't cry over it either. I just think it was a very one of the more interesting relationships, of the series, but it's not quite so much of an emotional one, other than what the guy is going through. He used to be, young and outgoing and flavorful, and now he's dim, dark, nothing left. That's ashes.
Like I say, I think that it could.
I take a look at it. I take a look at it as she is his muse, and he at the end of the day, even though I know there's an age difference and an age gap, and she's a minority and all that jazz. Yes, it would have helped if she would have been 5 years older, but a musician has to have his muse just like any other artist. And if the youngness of the flesh helps with his music, I guess at the end of the day in Japan, it's kosher.
not anymore, but yes, it used to be.
I think she's like one of the few actual people. Miyuki is one of the few characters in the whole show that actually did injure herself trying to get this relationship to work. When Kuze set his violin on fire, he's going to throw it away.
Right.
Get rid of that piece of his life. He's get rid of it. She dives after the violin. Very improbable situation. Very improbable.
It is also, yeah. She does
burn her hands.
She does lead the charge. It's not he's perving on her a little bit, but it's just his way. He's a womanizer. She's the one who's pursuing things. So that is an important distinction in a sense, because if he was pursuing her that relentlessly, I would go, yeah, dude,
it's almost as if the relationship was the opposite of the first relationship, because Miyuki was the solid one, and Kuze was very much the person that was very fragmented. He just was kind of that kind of a situation mentally. So it's kind of like a bookend.
It could have been worse. She could have been 10.
Yeah, it could have been worse.
I would.
It could have been Boko no Pico.
If she was 10 years old and doing this, I would have loved to see. I'll be like,
well, she's not 10 years old.
If she was 10 years old, then we'd be talking.
Well, that'd be more difficult to talk about. Yeah, it's already tough. It's already tough enough to have that kind of an age difference, and mentally,
Well, Dave, we're going to be talking about it in the next relationship.
Yeah.
You know what though? Before we get on to that, any other comments on this particular one? Because Because for the next one, I'm just going to hand it over to Brittany because it sounds like you at least understand the whole thing, because I only understood a little bit of it because I got confused.
Oh, no. I was with you with the confusion part up until one episode.
Yeah.
So the next relationship, episode 6 is when we officially know what happened. I'm going to do the lighthearted thing. I said there were 2 actors I was going to call out.
Yeah.
The other actor I'm calling out, David Mataranga, who played you.
Okay.
When you have childhood you, and I mean little kid you, and it sounds really dumb.
Yeah.
That is not how a child sounds.
Is it the same guy played him at both ages?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's weird. I get it with the girls. They do that all the time, but yeah, that's weird.
No, if you're going to do it, if you're going to do it,
when you can
swallow
tell
your
it's the
tongue.
falsetto.
Yeah.
When you can tell it's the falsetto.
Yeah. So I mean hearing that just screeched my ears, and I got that before 6. So that's one of the things that hit me. So basically, you had a younger sister, and there was an earthquake. He lost his mom, his dad, his younger sister. And I mean, he's traumatized that he lost his younger sister.
And he believes he ran away from her. Like he could have theoretically saved her, but he ran away. Yeah.
He ends up in an orphanage and meets Yukio. Yukio looks a lot like his...
Yuko. Sorry.
Yuko. She looks a lot like his younger sister, only dark hair, because his sister had white hair. That's the key difference there. She latches on to him like a big brother, or she wants to latch onto him like a big brother.
Right.
And wants to have this sort of relationship with him as a brother. She gets adopted.
Mm-hmm.
Goes off to a family, and they reunite, 5 years later?
Ish.
In high school.
Yeah.
And she tries to start the relationship back over, and he wants still nothing to do with her on this relationship. She pushes. We then learn she's covered in injuries. Beaten, blackened, scars. Her adopted brother sexually assaulted her from the age she was adopted, physically abuses her, and then she blames you for her problem.
Well, she was adopted in part because I think she had some level of choice, and she wanted him to ask her to stay, and he refused to do it. And so she feels
in distress moment.
Yeah, basically, the timing of his refusal.
I want you to rescue me.
Yes,
I want you to rescue me, but this situation is so horrible I can't deal with it right now. So years later, because he didn't rescue her, she blames him.
Now, as my viewers know, I am a sexual assault victim. I was a victim 2 years ago, almost from 1 month from now. I was assaulted on Valentine's Day 2023. So I was not done as a child. I can tell you, every victim I've talked to since, my own trauma, you will not let the person who did this to you get this away unless they've seriously mind-effed you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that she is not only supported, but turns to her brother
Didn't she
and
try to kill him?
blames you for the reason of her assault absolutely makes this anime garbage.
Didn't she try to kill him with a knife?
Yes.
Yeah. It's a cool looking knife, though.
Yeah, the animation budget went to the knife. Of all things.
A lot of it did.
I mean, and the worst part is she gives the knife to you. You goes up against the brother. The brother's like, "What you gonna do? Stab me? Oh no! She could have gone to the police. She could have done all this, and he doesn't stab. The motherfucker should die."
See, I don't know that and Brandon, you're the resident health person. We go to you with all these questions. But my understanding is that, Brittany, I'm sure you are correct in a large percentage of the cases. But there are people who are so hopelessly, toxically attached to their relationships that they will put up with some crazy shit.
Oh no, I know there are people that way. There absolutely
It's
are.
called a yo-yo effect.
He obviously emotionally
It's called a yo-yo
manipulated.
effect.
What's that, Brian?
Saying he obviously emotionally manipulated her, also, and manipulated her memory of him in order to try and get her to do this.
Right.
And Dave, you were trying to say something?
Dave?
Yeah. Basically, it's a yo-yo effect. It's often done between boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, or significant others, where one person is dominant and the other is submissive, and oftentimes they'll let themselves be punching bags for the rest of their lives. Because they're so in love with them. They remember the good old days.
I would say yes, that happens in real life, but this is an anime. And in this anime, it's to play up the most dramatic of moments.
Oh yeah, and this plot line gets dramatic as hell. Yes.
And the fact of the matter is they vote for the most extreme absurdness of this kind of scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are a victim of sexual assault, do not watch this anime. Period. I will tell you right now. I could not sleep for a few nights after watching that episode. I know I'm going to have trouble on the 4th. I always have trouble. I had trouble last year. I expect trouble when Valentine's Day comes around this year to sleep. In my case, this is
evidently
not.
She was brainwashed. And go ahead.
I mean, brainwashed. Yes, you can be brainwashed into it, but I can tell you from many cases where people have been kidnapped and dealt with their sexual abusers, people will still find ways to get away. They will find a way.
It's also worth noting that it's not just brainwashing and sexual abuse. Like, she's covered in scars. He clearly has been.
He is physically beating her.
Yes.
And she's also self-harming as well. So.
Well, yeah, but not as much. Like, when he asks her, like, did you do this yourself? It feels like it was probably not something she had made a habit of beforehand. But it could have been. But I got the impression that most of what was up to that point was him.
The thing I didn't like about this storyline the most was the fact that the anime did try towards the end to kind of let you try and sympathize with the brother.
Well, there is that plot line that hasn't been mentioned. We mentioned that you lost his sister, but Amamiya also lost his sister. And as far as we know, she looked a lot like Yuko. We don't get any real impression that there was much difference there. And the thing that finally, you're right, he does finally get a send-off that could almost be considered sympathetic, except that he was such a rat bastard, it was really hard to have any
He deserves a Shell Tucker death. He deserves a Shell Tucker death.
That's the thing, though, is that the anime tried to make him sympathetic.
Yeah.
But to me, the sister was blessed by the fact that she did not make it, because if that's how he was going to treat her, she was blessed too. She would have probably been better off dead.
Right.
And this is the main, for people to understand, Melodies, this is the true main plot of all of the entire story.
Oh, yeah.
Is the relationship between Yuko and you.
Right.
Because he's the priest and she is the flying nun.
She's the angel of love.
Yeah, yes. I know. I'm just making
the angel of love is the sexual abused victim.
Yeah.
And what's worse is, again, count the vehicles. 0. She dies.
Yeah.
To Truck-kun, as officially known in anime. She gets hit by a pair of headlights, because that's all we ever see of a vehicle in this anime.
Well,
and it kills her off. And she somehow ends up in woods, by the way. She was in the middle of a schoolyard, and she ends up in wood. Or churchyard, and she ends up in woods.
It's a very long hit.
It's notable. It's worth noting that she dies on Christmas, and she dies while waiting for you to get off work. He is walking with Miki. See, the whole thing with Miki, her and you really becoming a couple, all of that is after her brother's death. She actually is able to move on with her life, is found a semblance of happiness. She has become a mentor to this young girl who was without
an orphan. She's an orphan. She continues to be an orphan.
And she was like shutting everyone out. And Yuko was the one who made Miki rejoin society, you might say. She got, they were, things were good. And then she gets killed on Christmas, which is like kind of the ultimate tragic thing, but yeah.
And I get that this is what year did this come out? 2007, 8? 2007. 2007. It came out 2007.
Okay.
Even then, we had anime showing people get hit by vehicles.
Yeah.
Yu Yu Hakusho episode 1, man.
Excel Saga.
Excel Saga. But I mean, Excel Saga was done in humor. Yu Yu Hakusho, it was meant to be dramatic. Episode 1 is the most dramatic episode of Shonen, in my opinion. Of Yu Yu Hakusho. Best opener ever, makes you cry.
Right.
I do not understand the headlights and then off-scene death.
Well, you do see her largely dying on the screen, not fully, but largely. I
feel it's a huge animation drain or FU to not show at least a vehicle driving by.
That is true. I think the actual collision did not need to be animated, and I don't think the show lost anything not showing it. But having something, at least a car driving by, that would have made sense.
To me, this was the poorest written one, because there's a reason why people call these tier bait series.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's emotional manipulation.
It is.
But it's done masterfully, like Angel Beats is a good example of one.
Oh, Angel Beats was a brilliant example of
But
it.
it's really good.
And Yuko is your main character in the game, for those people who need to know. It's the main female.
But in something like this story was just like, let's just do all of the most disturbing things and just throw it in there randomly. What could be, because if we just throw all that stuff in there, it'll make it bad and sad, and that's what we want. Which is sad, because I do feel like they did it much better in the first season.
They did.
Yeah.
They did. If
And
we just had season 1, it would have been, in my opinion, an okay anime.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll admit, I also thought the writing was weak at the beginning of this season because the first 6 episodes were so confusing.
Yeah.
I had a hard time keeping up with what time period we were in.
That's poor directing. That's poor direction right there.
Mm-hmm.
That is absolute poor direction. If you're going to tell multiple timelines, it should have been like, we're going to do one half for this story and the other half for this story.
So
Not jump.
But at the same time, I understand why people can really get into this. And Roger, I know that you liked this. So
Right.
I do want to give you your opportunity to tell us why this was a good story here. Because I do want to know some of the great nuances of it. I was just confused a lot at that time. And I can also understand where Brittany would be coming from on that end. Because I thought he was a rat bastard myself. But
Yeah.
I also hadn't had to deal with any of that stuff. So I didn't have to deal with any, flashbacks or anything like that. But since you're somebody who saw the good in this, definitely let us know some of the finer elements of it.
Well, yeah, I'm probably going to be disagreed with already, but the greatest amount of sacrifice is done between you and Yuko, and they wanted to give a dramatic end. I think that's the only major relationship in the whole story where the resolution was not just happiness. It was just kind of melancholy, sad. It's pretty much the tragic. It was basically the tragic relationship of the story. What I liked about it is it was not cheery. It was not cheery. It was a dark, moody kind of end. And because of that, because of the sacrifice done, of course, remember we're looking at a story from another viewpoint, and it's something I don't understand myself. Why they had to be, why they had to pick on Christianity, but to them, they wanted to pick on that aspect of Christianity, where Yuko makes the grand sacrifice, which is dying, and then coming back to give advice to the other characters to help with them with their relationships. I mean, to me, it's a complicated measure of a great amount of sacrifice with a great amount of gain, because without the interactions of Yuko, the other relationships might have failed. So that's how I kind of look at it. It's a matter. This whole show has to do with sacrifice and the result of that sacrifice. Is it a positive thing, or perhaps it would be a negative thing? So with all the other relationships being positive, that one was the one that had to be the tragic one, and that's what happened with that part of the show.
The icing on the cake, in my opinion, that really made me really pissed off with the series. The final 5 minutes of this anime. You guys recall what happens in the final 5 minutes of the anime?
They wrap
they wrap everything up with Yuko showing up at the end, sitting on top of that church thingy.
No.
And it's almost
You guys
like
are
she's
thinking
giving them a
beforehand.
spiritual
You're thinking of the
message, isn't it?
beforehand. The final 5 minutes.
You're talking about over the credits?
Yeah.
Okay, I saw a few things. I don't remember all of
They
it.
preach to you to be happy.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's
Not after this.
Not after this series. I'm sorry. You give me that story, and then you give me 5-minute lecture of, now you need to be happy.
Oh, they could have played that song like "Don't Worry, Be Happy" at the end of the credits.
Don't worry.
I
I thought
At the end of everything, I admit that at the end of everything, I admit that Yuko and her revenge factor there was something wrong with that psychotic element of it. Looking back on the series and realizing that she was also there as a spirit at the church. Okay, what if we looked at this as the possibility that maybe she's there in spirit because maybe she's trying to atone for what she has done, so that she can reach like where she needs to go after death.
I will kind of go with Roger on they
Possibly.
don't really know Christianity that well. It's a reason why Evangelion has so much biblical references, but make no sense, as they don't really know Christianity that well.
It just sounds cool to them.
It sounds cool.
I think what it is with that.
I'm not sure I would say they were picking on it, but they probably could have handled it a little better, that's for sure. But there is an awful lot that takes place in and around churches, that's for sure. But she does say, like, there may have been an element of penance, but she does explicitly say that she was told, you need to be an angel to these people. That she was told that was her mission, and she basically was able to complete her mission when she finally was able to talk directly to you.
Pretty much the final relationship conflict.
Yeah.
And we all know that Truck-kun is not sent without a reason.
Yeah.
All those isekai, you know that Truck-kun is there.
If this is the source for so many isekai,
well, yeah,
I wish this anime never started.
Wasn't the Truck-kun the impetus for Konosuba?
Yes.
No. As you recall, Kazuma dies because he thought a truck was going to hit them. He has a heart attack, pisses himself, and dies of fright.
Yes. But there you go. Still, Truck-kun was there, even if he wasn't there. He was there in spirit.
No, Truck-kun was only there in his mind.
and I will say, I did not think that I mean, at the end, most of them did, and I agree with Roger. They did have mostly happy endings.
Yeah.
Even with the pedophile one, where he basically like, well, now I'm inspired to get this operation so I can engage in the pedophilia. So that's at least a happy-ish ending in some ways. But I'll admit, the truck thing at the end did not have the desired response from me, because I'm ashamed to admit it, but I actually chuckled.
It was just, the moment you see the ball run out and she goes after it, I'm like, you're such a stupid idiot.
Yeah. I mean, I spent a good, because again, I'd forgotten most of the show, and I knew obviously she's dead. Like, it's very clear early on she's no longer with us. But I couldn't remember the how and the why. And then as soon as I saw them, I was like, oh, yeah.
But like I say, I do agree with Roger in some senses that you have to show hardship in order to get there. I think that their execution was very wrong. That they could have done it in a good way.
I demand someone with no time on their hand give me a total of how many people died to Truck-kun.
Yeah.
I mean, trucks are probably the number one cause of death of the Japanese people.
No, it could be worse. Like, we had this discussion a day or two ago at work about, and Brandon, you might know the term. There's a term that someone made the comment, well, in the 1900s, everyone died of such and such. Just ask Downton Abbey. Like, what is it that they all died of in Downton Abbey? It was
cholera.
In the 1900s, it was the flu.
No, it wasn't that. It was some sort of vague
Consumption.
generic. No, it wasn't that. It was-
Influenza.
no, it was some vague, stupid term that is not actually a thing. I'm trying to remember what it was. It's like persistent something or other. I can't remember. But anyway, we had that joke, and I was like, yeah, and if it was the 1800s, they all died of dysentery. Just look at Oregon Trail. It's like so in the modern
you laugh. We had the water problem.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true. Yes. But in the modern era, yes, truck coon is the modern dysentery.
He takes out all the extras in there. It's the truck distribution system.
Eclampsia. A
Eclampsia.
condition that causes seizures in pregnant or recently
Oh
delivered.
yeah. Eclampsia is no joke. That killed a lot of people. That's
So did consumption.
yeah, consumption too. No, but it was one specific thing I was trying to think of, and I can't because it's a bullshit term. It was in the 1900s. There were a lot of bullshit medical terms that
A lot of people died of tuberculosis.
yes,
at that
they
time.
did. A lot of them did. Yes,
And that's why they say consumption.
Yeah.
That is essentially what it is.
yeah.
I even had AI make me a song about dying of tuberculosis.
Well, there were a lot of things that people died of over time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Truck Coon killed them all.
Yes,
It
he
was really
did.
him.
Yes, he
Raccoon
did.
is the modern
And-
threat. Yes.
And it's the Spanish Inquisition spider behind the wheel.
But in any case, does anybody else have anything to say more about the plot of these two series as a whole?
No, not really.
I mean, I know to me, I do think that yes, I did enjoy the first season pretty well, and I do see how this could be considered a series that somebody could really get into, even with the second one. I would even be willing to go as far as to say if I had seen this 20 years prior, when I was a little bit more fuller of myself when it comes to seeing things that are there, I probably would have looked at this and probably would have even said that some of those choices were quite amazing. The ones that I wasn't quite happy with, because I probably would have made up something to make it sound cool. But at the same time, I understand where it could be. I mean, I understand where all the logic is. And I am appreciative of Roger for introducing or giving me the excuse to actually watch the series.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, as much as I hate this, thank you, Roger, for putting this up. So now I have something I know is a low point in anime.
Well, for me, everybody has their kryptonite, and mine is Genocyber. There's nothing worse out possible I could possibly
Have you watched the live action with Mark Hamill?
Well, there's something called Guyver. There's something
It's Guyver. That's right, it's Guyver. It's Guyver.
That's Guyver. I'm talking about Genocyber. But I do appreciate the Embodied Arts having sacrificed her mind and her spirit to get through this thing. It's either this or another. I just wanted something pretty cool and conflicted and dark. I said, this is something I would love to see again. So I do appreciate everybody's patience with this particular show. Hopefully, if there's another opportunity, perhaps there'll be another pathway for me to choose, something more palatable to everybody. So, thank everybody for watching. I appreciate it.
Yeah, the next couple. I mean, next month in February, even though we're not quite to February yet, it'll be Jacob's birthday pick. But then we're going to move into longer term series.
And for my pick, I'm going to go ahead and say you're talking about different path, or to use game terminology, Roger, you could say a different route. It's appropriate in a sense that next month's anime selection is actually from the exact same team behind this month's selection. we will be hitting Punny Punny Dash, which is also a Shaft series that is directed as well by Shin Onuma. I did not plan that when I picked it, but when I found it out, I was like, you know what? It might be fun to compare and contrast a incredibly would-be artsy, ultra dramatic series with a series that's just batshit that happened to be from the same people. So it'll be fun.
So before we end with this series, let's go into production.
Uh-huh.
We've all had little snips at the production, positive and negative. I'm gonna let Brittany go later because you're more experienced in looking at the things. You've talked a little bit about this stuff. To me, I wanted to say a couple of positive things about it from my end. They tried to be as creative as they could in how they were cutting money. I think that the whole Truck Coon thing that they did was probably a money saving measure. They didn't want to animate it. But there were certain things that I did like. Certain choices, like with cutaways, some of the what do they call some of those some of the stuff from the opening and ending scenes, stuff like that. I did like some of those creative moments, and the art style itself, I do kind of like the way that it looks. But that's all I have to say on that. And I forget, Roger, you had said that you really liked the animation in this.
Sure, I like the overall art style. You'll see a lot of this in like that. I forget the Japanese title, but like a Farewell Sensei-san, something like that, where you have a lot of cuts and reinsertions of symbology over and over again. What was that name? About the suicide.
Sayonara Zetsuba Sensei?
Yeah. Like that.
Yeah.
You'll see a lot of that element in that show, later on in that show that I saw in this show. But again, that's like watching, that's like watching, what was that other anime? Oh man, everything is just,
Maria Holic did that too. Andrew Tennant didn't use that.
Maria Holic, I believe, was also Shaft, wasn't it?
Oh.
That's Shaft for sure.
Yeah. And then like the Negima, the remix at least I know was Shaft. Sometimes Shaft has been mixed though. Fireworks was mostly a good movie, but it had some horrible CG in it.
This Fireworks was something I didn't enjoy at all. It's just I thought it was a complete failure in any kind of way. I thought
it had a hell of a theme song. But
I actually like the story of Fireworks. I did not like the presentation. The presentation was horrible.
Again, the CG was awful. But anyway, I would say for this one, I've already mentioned that I thought that they were creative with their cost cutting, but not always. I think they could have done with a little more actual animation and a little less trickery. But I will say, and the character designs were appealing, and mostly you could tell who was who without any problem, although there were not a huge number of individual characters to keep track of, so that helped. Yeah. But I will want to say that both a positive and a negative is that it's so rare you see an anime set in Australia, and it is an interesting place to set part of it. And I think it was interesting with the idea of a duality of most of the show taking place in the same time frame, basically winter, but you've got Japan and Australia, you've got summer and winter at the same time. I like that idea, but I think that they could have been a lot clearer in the execution, especially in the first season, where again, it wasn't even clear that it was all taking place at Christmas and just half of it was in Australia. That was not made very clear in the first season. And I think that, again, we were joking earlier about all the deadly creatures and the suicide tree, but there were so many ways to make the Australian-ness of those scenes more vibrant and obvious. Like, they had a great, rarely tapped setting, and they did not utilize it fully. So, yeah. Like, I like the look of the series, but they really dropped the ball short of where they needed to go, both in the animation and in taking advantage of the location.
Yeah. Did you have anything, Dave?
For the most part, I liked the art style. I mean, there were definitely some issues with some of it, especially in the dark second half or whatnot. But for the most part, it was okay. I think, like we've said earlier, if they had just kept it at the first season, it would have been fine.
They could have used all that money
You
that
know?
they spent on the second season. They could have made a nicer looking knife. Oh,
All right.
Brittany. So I just wanted to get everybody else out of the way.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I don't know if anybody else really touched upon the music because I haven't really touched upon it. It's okay.
I skipped the opening under halfway.
Yeah, I was waiting on music, but I actually really like the music in the series.
I feel the second season had better music, and it did show better quality animation in the second season. I saw less glaring errors. It's just around that time period, a lot of companies were switching from hand drawn to digital. And I have a feeling this came out around the same time the game did, so a lot of the animation probably was reused. And I feel the budget probably in reusing them was like a way to save the money, but at the same time probably didn't get the quality control it really needed, because there are some areas that I literally saw points that was like, is that character floating in midair? Because it seems like the texture is just one wall and the character's laying down. And I'm like, that doesn't seem right. That seems like a very bad use of perspective and textures. Yeah. So, I mean, it's going to take somebody who's a little more experienced to notice it. But yeah, there's some, especially season 1, a lot of serious errors, especially with the time-lapse photo art. I cannot forgive that. I mean, that's something I saw back when I was in animation studying in the mid-90s. Okay, it was doable then. I understand digital was new, that, the new thing. It's like, ooh, we can impose live action on, animation. It's dated these days. It really is. You'll still see it in like an opener and anime these days, but it just looks bad. It really does.
I liked how they did it in Fully Cooley.
Fully Cooley was at the same time. Fully Cooley, you're talking around 2007, 2006, around there. That period is when a lot of anime switched to digital. So
series, so it fitted better.
All in all, there are so many better anime for drama, for drama and love. And I just feel that this one, because it hits a mark that I would have to put down a stipulation. Do not watch this if you've been a sexual assault victim. Because this will traumatize you. That element will traumatize you. There's a reason I didn't continue this when I first started watching this one, because I got bored with it. And honestly, 2007, there was far better anime at the time. There really was. Hell, Clannad was out in 2007. So there's a I hate to say it, better drama love story. But it was. There you go. You want a good suggestion from that year? I always got to go to, we got what was it? Drill to the World. I forget. Why the freak do I forget of it? I mean, hell, Naruto was out that year. Hell, Shippuden. I think it was Shippuden by that point. It was out that year. Much better anime in 2007. The quality, mediocre. And like I said, I think it was reused from the game. The voice acting, I can only judge it on the dub. You guys can judge better on the sub. The quality was, you had some stupendous voice acting talents. As much as I hated on the actor of Kaze, he was a good voice talent. He did a lot of great roles in anime for particularly ADV at the time. And as again, anything with Chris Patton and Greg Ayres always seems to be, golden ticket right there. This is go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm sorry, I didn't want to jump on you there, but I was just going to say, from what I can tell, and I don't know if anyone else would agree, it's not exactly a big name cast for the Japanese cast. Mizuki is played by Mai Goto, who has a lot of really good credits to her name. But and Kuze was Kenji Hamada. I feel like I've seen that name in a few things.
I imagine the voice cast probably, because like I said, the voice cast was the same on the dub of the game. So I imagine the same with Japan. This is one of many visual novels that got turned to games. I just mentioned Clannad was one.
Right.
You had Fate series is based off of a visual novel series.
Well, one of the first ones we did on this channel was Higurashi When They Cry.
When They Cry visual novel series.
Yep.
So, if you're into visual novel series, then here, I would much suggest Steins Gate. There's a visual novel that has a much better plot and story that's interesting, even if people get a little irritated with how it ends.
We covered it on this channel, matter of fact.
We did indeed, yes. And hopefully we will do Clannad one day.
That was a Roger pick, if I recall correctly.
Roger, are you... I don't remember if you said before, Roger, are you familiar with the visual novel?
I know what a visual novel is. I have Steins Gate and a few other ones.
So not this one specifically. I was wondering if anyone knew...
This one has had a re-release on Steam.
Right.
Like Steins Gate has. I think Clannad has also had a re-release.
Yeah, I'm still sitting in my lineup for my place.
Yeah. So, what I was wondering was, does anyone know if Kuze's... I guess I'm going to call it Kuze's theme. If anyone knows if that's taken directly from the game or not. I imagine it probably is, but I don't know. It's like the main instrumental theme of Melodies.
Well, if people want to torture me enough with it, it can get on the list. We got to get through the Final Fantasy remake and Rebirth, but I'll throw it on the list.
Yeah, I started a playthrough, quote unquote, of When They Cry, and there was almost no gameplay involved. It was almost a straight visual novel.
That's why I stopped with Danganronpa, because the only way to do those games is usually have multiple people and make fun or have them do the voices.
My understanding is that Clannad's more of a game. It just depends on the series, I guess. But
from what I've heard, Clannad is more of a dating sim than
dating sims and visual novels can be very similar. Just kind of depends. Like oftentimes,
visual novels tend to have less gameplay. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
So
Like,
Or not.
When They Cry had almost no gameplay. You click a button here or click a button there. Once in a blue moon, you make a choice. Now, of course, in fairness, I only did about 2/3 of the first chapter because it was a lot longer than I expected. I was trying to get it in before we covered it for the show, and I just never got it back to it.
Yeah.
But
It's a lot
I
of
enjoyed
reading.
it. It was interesting. The show was more interesting.
Anything else on the music itself? I'm not going to comment on as much because it didn't really hit me as anything that I really liked or really disliked.
The opener of season 1.
I mean, it's the same song on both seasons.
Well, yeah, there are different variations. But no, it's called Euphoric Field is the first one, and Ebullient Future is the second. But there are a lot of overlap in the songs, and you also have character songs that play over the end. Most of the female cast have character songs that play on multiple episodes. And overall, I like the songs. I like the themes. There's nothing I would put in a top 10 or top 20, but there's a lot of enjoyable songs, you know. Roger, we know you love to skip the openers and enders, and you too, Dave. Did y'all actually watch them this time around?
Nope.
Believe it or not, I did watch. I did enjoy a couple of themes, like what's there the first theme with the girl with the red yellow ribbons. I forget her name again. Like her theme, then I like the cave theme. So yeah, I mean, typically I don't watch opening and endings of most animes. I mean, all they do is detract from my purpose of watching the anime. So that's typically why I would just go over and forget about it.
I disagree on that.
Same here.
This one of the few.
Not the reason I go into an anime to watch.
There have been shows where the main draw was the opener and or ender. Gasaraki comes to mind. That can be faint praise, though, sometimes. But anyway.
I think that's pretty much it. All we need to do is, I guess, figure out what we're watching
right
next time.
Right.
Right.
Are we doing favorites?
Yeah, why don't we do real quick? We'll do favorites, and then I'm going to talk about what we're going to cover next because I'll roll that, and because we're going to do a very short intermission between anime series, and then any outros, and we'll head off. So, any major favorite scenes that y'all have in these two series?
Certainly.
I'm not going to go with characters, just a favorite scene at this point. All right, go for it, Roger.
Well, my overall, I mean, there's a couple great scenes I like in it. Like, for instance, as Kazu's word attack against Miyuki. It's a really cool scene. There's a few others, but my favorite one was Chichiro's and Renji's final, when she realizes that she really loves Renji, and she's able to remember him now. I really like that particular scene because she has a revelation that the angel wings pop out, and she confesses that she really loves him. That was overall my favorite scene in the whole series.
I second that.
Right. How about you, Dave? Favorite scene?
I second that Renji remembering moment. I think that's what I'll remember from the series.
All right, Brittany.
Favorite scene is me pulling it out of the DVD player and being done with it.
So when it goes to black at the end.
Yes.
How about you, Jake?
Well, you guys mentioned earlier, and I didn't really say much at the time, but the scene where Chihiro basically in a sense, does throw herself off the building by throwing the pages off. It is a very effective scene, and I like
nice,
that.
really powerful scene.
And now, is it my favorite? It's kind of hard to say, but it's probably one of the most memorable scenes. So I think at least one of the most memorable ones that's not a not so good scene. That's kind of an awkward way of saying it, but you know what I mean. And I admit, I like happy endings. I kind of like the final thing with you and Yuko. But I'm probably going to go with that one scene with Chihiro on the rooftop. Yeah.
All right. My favorite is also that one, but I stated that earlier on, so no surprises. So I'm going to run down a list just because, for sake of time, I'm just going to say stuff. But if you all have any extra stuff, please let me know.
Okay.
Of course, see me and Jake on this channel. I don't think you have to. If you're on here, you should know.
Yeah.
You should check out Brittany on her channel. If you want. It is linked down below, so you should check it out. She does excellent content and some cool streaming stuff.
And doing daily draws now. So check out me on socials.
Good deal.
New art each day.
And Dave has Delusions of Grandeur and Inside Movies Galore. Excellent movie discussions, pickups, and various things along. And he also has various music CDs that he has for sale on the link below. And a movie that I would love to see moving, which is Tales of Forgotten Part 1. So if you haven't seen it, you should. It's good to get a hold of. And Roger has an excellent community. I've already referenced it a couple of times where I get jealous because people post on his Facebook page there and amazing collections. Get to see a lot of cool pickups and a lot of cool people on that. Very nice discourse. Probably one of the nicest corners of the internet where there aren't a lot of them. So definitely, if you get the chance to slide in there, you are lucky.
Thank you.
So I guess this is where I'm going to roll on our big live action list. We have two big lists. The live action list is nowhere near as long as the lengthy series list, but we won't get to roll on that until the end of February because where we'll be starting, long series where we'll be doing a part of a series each month until that series is done. So let's see where we are as far as live action. Hopefully something that's not, oh God, there's a couple of these that we don't want to do after this one. All right. All right. So one that, okay, that
you
one.
Possibly roll one of those.
Okay, this one's definitely of similar feel to F. The live action City Hunter with Jackie Chan.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Good times.
Similar feel.
So if you can make it, we're going back to last Wednesday of the month, which is going to be in 2 weeks. But I think that should be enough time for most of y'all to watch one film.
Maybe.
So
I think it's only it's not even a 2-hour movie, is it?
I don't think so. It's actually a pretty quick and easy one, and it's a fun movie. I mean, it's a Jackie Chan film, and it's very light.
It's one of his most memed movies. I know that much.
It is. But with that being said, I hope you all have enjoyed this. If you did, click that like, click that subscribe, and share. And if y'all stay on just a little bit after we get off the air, we'll talk about next time, and then we'll adjourn. Good night.